Hello again, welcome back. Welcome to new class number 315, right, Marta? 315, okay. The conditional. The story of the beggar. The story of the beggar is here on page 307.9. All right. But I'm going to tell the story even though the story is here in writing, here and here, I'm going to tell the story. Now, let's assume, asumamos se dice en inglés, o sea, supongamos, let's suppose, también nos vale. Let's assume, se dice un poco más assume creo, let's assume that I'm a person who likes to give coins or money to beggars. Beggar is mendigo, pordiosero, parecido. And so every time I see a beggar, an opportunity to do a good deed. To do a good deed. D-E-E-D. Deed. That means hacer una buena obra. Una obra como acción, no una obra de pintura. Is a deed. A good deed. Es un hecho. Quiero hechos, no palabras. I want deeds. Quiero obras, no palabras. And so to do a good deed is hacer una buena obra. To do a good deed. So, every time I see a beggar, I think, opportunity knocking on my door to do a good deed, because maybe somebody is watching from above, maybe. And so, I always give a coin, if I have one. If I don't have one, I can't. So, let's say, let's say, pero enlaza la S de let's con la S de say. Let's say, digamos que, let's say, I leave this office after I finish, Marta and I finish, and I leave. We say goodbye, I say goodbye to Marta, she says goodbye to me, and we go our separate ways. All right. And I go downstairs to go to my car, and I go outside, and about 30 or 40 meters ahead, I see a beggar sitting against the wall of the building, and clearly he's asking for money. Clearly he is asking for money. And I say to myself, an opportunity to do a good deed. If I have a coin, I'll give it to the beggar. If I have a coin. Si tengo una moneda, se la daré al mendigo. If I have a coin, I'll give it. Primera parte, la frase, la parte de if, presente, habitual. If I have, si tengo. Es igual en castellano, si tengo una moneda. Es que es igual en español. Si tengo una moneda, la daré. Se la daré al mendigo. If I have, I will. If I have, I will. Present, future. Present tense, comma, future tense. Eso se llama el first conditional. Los expertos. Me, I call it el condicional del futuro. Future conditional. Porque no sé todavía si tengo moneda o no. Entonces una condición que se verá en el futuro. Inmediato, claro. If I have a coin, I'll give it to the beggar. And I'm walking, checking all of my pockets, and I don't have a coin. And finally, I'm standing in front of the beggar after checking every pocket and said, "Oh, Mr. Beggar, I'm sorry. I don't have a coin." If I had, ahora es el presente, el condicional del presente, ahora mismo, en este mismo instante, si tuviera, se la daría, o sea, le daría una moneda. Si tuviera una moneda, se la daría a usted. Señor mendigo, Mr. Beggar. Eso es, aunque esté usando el pasado, if I had, que en español no es pasado, si tuviera o tuviese. If I had, pero usamos el pasado simple en inglés, donde en español se dice tuviera, pudiera, supiera, fuera, estuviera. Usamos el pasado en inglés. Y en francés también. Si j'avais, o sea, en francés sí, dicen, si yo tenía, se lo diría. Claro, suena raro, pero también en inglés hacemos lo mismo. Si, if I had, esto tuviera, tuviese, pudiera, pudiese, fuera, fuese, comiera, comiese. Es muy curioso y me gusta mucho en español. But in English, no. If I had a coin, presente, ahora mismo. Second conditional, present conditional. Mr. Beggar, right now, ahora mismo en el presente. If I had a coin, I would give it to you. Would. Como I would like, que hemos visto hace poco. I would like, would. Would es el condicional. Iría, I would go. Sabría, I would know. Tendría, I would have. Comería, I would eat. Would. Suena igual que madera, would. Would. Se escribe would, pero ojo con la L. Nada, nada, nada. Fuera. Would. Would. If I had a coin, I would give it to you, Mr. Beggar. I'm sorry. If I had a coin, I would give it to you. But I don't have a coin. Sorry, I don't have a coin. But if I had one, si tuviera una moneda, if I had one, I'd, or I would, yo hago la contracción, I'd, no lo recomiendo, solo para entender. I would. Why? Los hispanohablantes es imposible que dominen el I'd. Y conduce a malentendidos si se pronuncia mal. I would, no hay problema, I would. If I had a coin, I would give it to you. I would give it to you. But I don't. That's the present conditional. The second conditional. If I had, I would. And then I go home. I open the door to my house and, darling, I'm home. And she comes running to give me a kiss. Said, oh, you're home, darling. Yes, I'll bring you your whiskey. Tu batín y tu whiskey. Y en tu sillón. Yeah, for me, I get home. El guerrero llega al castillo. Yeah. And I'd say to my wife, I said, by the way, about 30 minutes ago, I saw a beggar, and I didn't have a coin. Can you believe it? ¿Te lo puedes creer? Can you, como nuevo, can you believe it? ¿Te lo puedes creer? O sea, en inglés decimos, ¿lo puedes creer? Can you believe it? I didn't have a coin. But if I had had a coin, si yo hubiera tenido, ahora, haber es el verbo to have. Si yo hubiera, if I had tenido, had, o sea, se repite had. If I had had a coin, I would have given it, habría dadolo, o dadola, se la habría dado al mendigo. I would have given it to the beggar, but I didn't have a coin. So, I couldn't give him any money. But if I had had a coin, I would have given it to the beggar. Esto es el pasado condicional, el condicional del pasado, que veremos un poco más adelante, que se usa 1 o 2 veces al mes. All right. Recuerda que lo que hay por aquí se usa 3 veces por minuto. Lo que hay por aquí se usa 2 veces, 3 veces al mes. Huh? Prioritize. Okay. But we're going to study, remember the beggar's story. Remember the story of the beggar. If I have, I will. Sorry, if I had, I would. If I had had, I would have. Esa estructura jamás cambia. It's very simple. Of course, the sentences are long. I would have given it. O sea, se lo habría dado. But it never changes. And in Spanish, it doesn't change either. Si yo hubiera sabido, yo habría podido. Si hubiera ido, habría disfrutado. Si hubiera o hubiese, etcétera, etcétera. El hubiera, hubiese, hubiéramos, hubierais, hubiéramos, no cambia. ¡Shum! Pero en inglés es más fácil todavía. It's simply had. En todos. Si hubiéramos, if we had. Si hubiéramos sabido, ella y yo, si hubiéramos sabido, if we had known, si hubieras tú sabido, if you had, si yo hubiera sabido, if I had known, si hubieran sabido, if they had known. Hay que saber el participio known, etcétera, y otros participios, pero had es una constante ahí. It's not difficult, but that's the past conditional. Today, the present conditional, the second conditional. Si yo tuviera una moneda, señor mendigo, se la daría ahora mismo. If I had. Ahora, este had es si tuviera, no si hubiera tenido. If I had. Siempre se usa el pasado. Si supiera, if I knew. Si tocase, if I touched. Si empujara, if I pushed. Si limpiara, if I cleaned. Si te señalara, if I pointed. Y podemos ir a las listas. Si perdiéramos el partido, estaríamos tristes. If we lost, claro, si perdíamos, decimos en inglés. Y en francés también se dice así. If we lost the game, we would be. Okay. Entonces, la parte de la frase que es if, que puede ir al principio o después, estaríamos tristes si perdiéramos el partido. O al revés, si perdiéramos el partido, estaríamos tristes. If we lost the game, comma, we would be sad. Mm-hmm. O al revés, we would be sad if, y ahora en este no va la coma, we would be sad if we lost the game. All right, both ways are the same. It's the same idea. Si supiera alemán, hablaría alemán. O al revés, yo hablaría alemán si lo supiera. All right. If I knew German, I would speak it. If I had $1 million, I would spend it in 1 week. Not really. Okay, so, con la lista de los regulares e irregulares, bam, podemos estar 80 días con esto. Si yo fuera el presidente, si yo fuera el rey del mundo, if I were, ojo, were, no was. Was is the past tense. I was, he was, she was, it was, you were, we were, they were. Ahora bien, en el condicional es were siempre. Si esta mesa fuera un elefante, if this table were, ayer esta mesa era mesa, no era elefante. Yesterday this table was a table. It wasn't an elephant. But now, if this table were an elephant and not a table, I would have a problem teaching, because I can't teach with an elephant in front of me. So, if it were, es la única excepción, es were, siempre. Y ojo con si yo fuera, si tú fueras, si yo estuviera detrás de la cámara, donde Marte, if I were a rich man, Violista en el Tejado, la película. If I were a rich man, if I were, si yo fuera. If I was, si yo era. Si yo era de niño lo que tú dices que yo era, eso sí, if I was, pero eso ya remontando al pasado. If I were, es ahora mismo. Ahora mismo, si yo fuera un dragón, echaría humo. Bueno, humo no, fuego. If I were a dragon, I would spew fire to the camera. Marta would need to be careful. Chamuscada, Marta la chamuscada. All right. Because el profe es dragón hoy. All right. If I were a dragon, Marta would need to be a little bit careful. Okay. But I'm not. If I were the king of the world, I would reduce taxes. Yes. If I were a famous baseball player, I would be rich. If I were the best football player in the world, I would be famous. very, very famous. If I were a rich man, if this were, if it were, si fuera verdad, lo que dices, if it were true, if it were. Ahora bien, se oye mucho it was. If I was. Se usa muchísimo, 50% de las veces, pero es un error en el idioma. Como aquí en España a veces hay gente que dice, contra más le veo, más. No, no, es cuanto más. Pero mucha gente dice contra. Entonces es un error incrustado. Y mucha gente aquí dice, si pudiera te llevaría al aeropuerto mañana. Pero hay otra gente que dice, si pudiera te llevaba. Ahora mismo, el te llevaba, que es universal aquí. Si pudiera te llevaba ahora mismo, pero lo siento, no puedo. Ese te llevaba está mal, ese te llevaría. Entonces entran errores gramaticales que luego la RAI, la Real Academia, acepta como normal. Okay. If I were, y suena un poco mal decir if I was, pero mucha gente lo dice. If I was, como contra más le veo, etc. If I were a rich man, if it were true, if she were my wife, you would call me a cradle robber, right? Si ella fuera esposa mía, mi esposa, me llamarías tú asaltacunas, right? If she were, no, she was. Yesterday, well, she's not my wife, and yesterday she wasn't my wife. But today, if she were, si ella fuera, if she were my wife, you would call me a cradle. Cradle is cuna. Robber is ladrón. O sea, asalta cunas. You would call me a cradle robber. She's not my wife. All right. If I knew French perfectly, I would go to France more often. Si supiera el francés a la perfección. If I knew French perfectly. Si estuviera yo detrás de la cámara, pues no estaría aquí. If I were behind the camera, I wouldn't be in front of the camera. Es una perogrullada, you say in Spanish, you know. Okay, listen. This is a pencil. Marta. Marta, this is a pencil because it's not a microphone. Hombre, es de cajón, ¿no? Esto es un lápiz porque no es micrófono. Bueno, si fuera micrófono no sería lápiz, right? Este tipo de frase tonta, puedes escribir 80 de ellas y transformarlos en el condicional. This is a pencil because it's not a microphone. So lógicamente, if this were a microphone, it wouldn't be a pencil. Do you understand? I'm in front of the camera because I'm the teacher. Conclusión lógica. Logical conclusion. If I weren't the teacher, I wouldn't be in front of the camera, right? The earth is round. La tierra sí que es redonda, dicen. To me it seems flat. When I look out, it seems flat. But nevertheless, the earth is round because it's not square. Tierra cuadrada. But if the earth were square, it wouldn't be round. Inés is from Seville because she's not from Bilbao. Conclusion, if she were from Bilbao, she wouldn't be from Seville. I'm tall because my father is tall. If my father weren't tall, I wouldn't be tall. I'm American because I'm from the United States. If I weren't, fíjate que no digo weren't, como vosotros. If I weren't American, or if I weren't from the United States, I wouldn't be American. Germany is a strong country because the German people work hard, se supone. If the German people didn't work hard, ¿ves? Estoy usando el pasado simple. Si los alemanes o la gente alemana, si los alemanes no trabajaran mucho, if the German people didn't work hard, Germany wouldn't be such a strong country. Such a strong country. This microphone doesn't work because it's very old. If it weren't so old, maybe it would work. Yes. This book is excellent because it gives you everything you need. However, if it didn't give you everything you need, it wouldn't be an excellent book, or this book wouldn't be excellent. I like Fabada because it's from Asturias. If it weren't from Asturias, I wouldn't like it. Not true. All right. I like paella because I like rice. Me gusta la paella porque me gusta el arroz. I like paella because I like rice. Si no me gustara el arroz, if I didn't like, ¿ves? Parece el pasado simple en negativo. El año pasado no me gustaba el arroz. Last year I didn't like. Es igual. No me gustaba el arroz el año pasado. Ahora sí. I didn't like rice last year. Now I do. Por tanto, so I like paella. Yes. If I didn't like rice, si no me gustase el arroz, if I didn't like rice, I wouldn't like paella. I wouldn't like paella. Argentina is in the southern hemisphere because it's not in the northern hemisphere. All right? Yes. Logical. If Argentina were in the northern hemisphere, it wouldn't be in the southern hemisphere. Yes. Russia is a cold country because it's in the north. If Russia weren't in the north, it wouldn't be a cold country. I came here by car. Well, I come by car every day because I have a car. If I didn't have a car, I wouldn't come here by car every day. I would come by public transport or by taxi or on foot. I would walk. Yes, I can teach English because I speak English. If I didn't speak English, I couldn't teach it. Claro, si yo no hablara inglés, no podría enseñarlo. Si no supiera hablar inglés, no podría. If I didn't know, I know how to speak English. Ergo, therefore, I can teach English. But if I didn't know how to speak English, I wouldn't be able, no podría, or I couldn't. I wouldn't be able to teach English. I'm looking at the camera because I'm speaking to you. If I weren't speaking to you, I wouldn't be looking. Condicional, continuo. No estaría mirando. I wouldn't be looking at you. Yes. And I'm looking at you, or you can see me. You can see me because I'm sitting in front of the camera. If I weren't, una sola sílaba. If I weren't, británicos dicen, if I weren't. If I weren't sitting in front of the camera, you wouldn't be able to see me. I have 10 fingers because I don't have 11 fingers. If I had 11 fingers, I wouldn't have 10. Well, yes, I would have 10 plus 1. If I had only 9 fingers, yeah, then I wouldn't have 10. All right. I'm wearing a pink shirt because I'm not wearing a white shirt. If I were wearing a white shirt, I wouldn't be wearing a pink shirt. Conditional. It's easy. It's easy. If yo, tú, ella, ello, o el objeto en cuestión, más el verbo en pasado simple. Excepto el verbo to be, que se dice que were y no was, ¿ok? All the rest. Y después la otra parte, would, más el infinitivo, in scene 2. Would go, would come, would see, would eat, would play, would smile. Yes? If I were missing a front tooth, I wouldn't smile in front of the camera. If I had 3 eyes, 1, 2, 3, I would be more famous than now. Okay. If Inés Garcia were married, Francois wouldn't be interested in her. Well, maybe, but if she were married, but she's not, she's single. But if she were married, she wouldn't pay any attention to Francois. If she were a doctor, she wouldn't work with her father in her father's law firm. If I had more time, I would continue teaching the conditional, but I don't. I have to say goodbye.